Larry, let's talk about Deebo. If they were to trade this guy, is the deadline is the deadline the draft? Is that sort of when it has to happen? And that's in 2 weeks.
Yes.
Yes.
You know, in short, yes, Grant, because you can't move off of your best offensive player and not get better. And if you do that trade after the draft, what's that trade for? That trade's for what, 2023 draft picks? So now you're going to have to wait a full year as Deebo lines up and plays for somebody else. You're going to have to play this year without him with no draft picks. So no, it has to be on draft day. And I would say it almost has to be with the New York Jets, because I think the Jets are the team that wanted Tyreek Hill. Joe Douglas is in year 3 of his tenure there, and it's go time for Joe Douglas, or he's out at the end of the year. And he's got 4 picks in the top 38. And if I'm Lynch, if I'm going to trade Deebo, I got to have those picks.
So that makes this very intriguing. Like, why is Deebo Samuel doing things now? Why are the 49ers responding now? Because this could be coming to a head in the next 2 to 3 weeks. This is sort of the deadline. The 49ers wouldn't, as you said, they wouldn't trade him for picks next year. They could hold on to him and trade him for a player, but what player are you going to trade him for who's as good as Deebo? It doesn't make sense.
Right.
So it seems like while the Niners don't finish negotiations this early, they're going to have to work something out in the next couple of weeks to know that they can move forward in good faith with Deebo.
Grant, I think they already know where they stand with Deebo, because the reality is that at this point, you know, there's $70 million guaranteed to a couple wide receivers, and he wants to be in that category. And, you know, you can go study the history of the Niners and their bonuses. It's something I know you've talked about on your channel this week. They don't have a history of giving $72 million. They don't have a history of giving $60 million. They don't have a history of giving $50 million. No. So odds are they're a great distance apart with Deebo. And it sounds severe to say, oh, maybe they'll trade him. But I think it's not just viable. I think at this point, I don't want to say it's likely, but I would say it's at least 50-50 whether they move him.
Sure. And I guess the question here is it smarter to give Deebo Samuel the going rate, $70 million, which is $22 million more than the Niners have ever given guaranteed, or is it smarter to trade him? What do you think?
I think it's smarter to trade him.
Wow.
And I know that's like, wow. Are you kidding me? They just went through this
I'm open-minded.
with DeForest Buckner and Javon Kinlaw. And I understand. I mean, you've made the point that their Super Bowl window is directly tied to Deebo Samuel. So I know how what a ridiculous statement it is to say it's better to trade him or smarter to trade him.
I'm saying it's ridiculous. It's not.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
No, I know. But I mean, there's a lot of people out there who are going to hear this and immediately are going to be like, dude, what? Come on. No, it didn't work with Buckner and Kinlaw. And no, you can't go down this road. Stop trading your great players. But there are very few players in the NFL that are worth, multiple top tier picks. And if you're the 49ers, are you going to give $70 million to Deebo? And then if you give him that kind of money guaranteed, are you going to stop using him as a running back? Probably not, because he's better with the ball in his hands.
Right.
So it just doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. He now, because the way you utilized him at running back, he wants to be paid. And I don't blame him for wanting to be paid, but I wouldn't want to be the team that pays him that much. And I don't think they do either. And I think they're too far apart to compromise. And I think the Jets, on the other hand, are sitting there needing that player, and they've got the ammo to get it done. And if I'm the 49ers, they got 4 picks in the top 38. I need 3 of those 4 picks to make a deal.
Fair enough. Let me go back. I'm going to respectfully disagree with you on this one. Okay. I think it's smarter to pay Deebo. And I think the way you can do it, I understand you're worried about longevity, the way he plays. First of all, if they extend him, I don't think he's going to play running back that much more. Even though he's good at it, how can you justify that? And I think what you could say is he was forced into that role because Mostert went down and Jimmy's awful or Jimmy's limited. If Trey Lance is as good as advertised and the Niners draft a running back, which they maybe there's not as much of a need to play Deebo at that position. Also, what they could do, because he still plays a physical style of football and he's gotten hurt running like Kittle. He's gotten hurt just straight up running, but it's groins and hamstrings. They could give him guaranteed in 2 years. Give it all front loaded while Trey Lance is on his rookie deal, and really don't commit yourself to Deebo Samuel long term. But look at him as someone who could be special for 2 more years. Is that a compromise, or what do you think?
It's a philosophical discussion from within. you cannot pay a guy $70 million as a wide receiver and then use him on 3rd
That's
and
true.
1 and 4th and 1.
That's true. You can't
So
do that.
that means you need a big back. Now we'll
Yes.
talk about Brian Robinson from Alabama, and he was a
Yes.
big back. He was a
Yes.
220, 230 pound back. And maybe that's your compromise, that you pay Deebo, but you use him as receiver, and
Yes.
then you draft another back, and you basically say to Deebo, we're going to use you running, but outside the tackle box,
Yeah.
not through
Yes.
the A gaps and short yardage and on the goal line.
That seems like a fair compromise too. And like we'll give you a carry when we're on the 25-yard line, when we're at the 17, because you could probably score. But other than that, maybe we'll limit you to end arounds and screens like we did in the past. Okay, but you think that they're really far apart and it's looking like they might not work it out. Let's say they don't. We don't know. What do you think he's worth? Given that
And it's
Tyreek, given that the Jets were rumored to be offering 2 seconds for Tyreek.
Well, and think about what the difference is between Tyreek and Deebo. Tyreek's got issues off the field. Deebo does not. Tyreek was already being paid from a team that was strapped against the cap because of the Mahomes contract. The 49ers theoretically are in the driver's seat here. They've got Deebo under contract for what, $4.5 million this year? They don't have to extend him this year. They could let him sit. So I would say, if I'm John Lynch and Joe Douglas comes calling, I say, Joe, the pressure's on you to win in New York or not have a gig. The pressure's not on me. I got an asset that I love, and I got him at an acceptable price. I don't have to do anything before draft day. You do. So I would say, it's all about trying to stick it to Joe Douglas. And I wouldn't make this deal unless I could. So what does that mean? That means I don't think you can get 4 and 10, but I want 4, and then I want both those 2s. And then I can trade from 4 down the draft a little bit and regain some of that, and maybe even another pick. But I want that 4th pick, and I want those 2 2s, and maybe an additional pick. And then that to me is a really high price tag for Deebo. But you're also getting a player that Robert Saleh knows and likes. You're also getting a receiver who's ready to step in today, unlike every receiver in this draft that isn't ready to step in today, and you need to start making it happen. They're 6-27 since Douglas took over. They were 4-13 last year. The Jets have the longest playoff drought in the entire NFL. So the pressure's on them, and because of it, I'd try to stick it to them and rip them off.
Yeah, if the Niners do trade Deebo, they better get that number 4 pick back. And I think the way they can sell it to the Jets is, look, we know what you wanted to give for Tyreek Hill. Deebo's better. Tyreek's more proven, but he's 28 and his game is built on speed. Deebo's in his prime. Deebo was more effective last year. Deebo's going to cost you more, and you're more desperate now because you've swung and missed, struck out multiple times in free agency. So we're gonna need that number 4 pick. Last contingency. What if? Is it possible that Deebo could say, all right, you don't think I'm worth $70 million? I'm not signing for anything less. And I'm willing to play out my rookie contract to prove it and get that, because next year it could be $80 million if he does it again. Do you think he would do that, or is that just insane in football?
Yeah, that's a great question. My
How
other
confident are
question,
you, Deebo? You know what I mean?
yeah, my other question is, if you're unhappy and we're miles apart, what do you do? I saw Ayuk working out with Trey. I saw 4 or 5 receivers. I didn't see Deebo. So I got issues about whether or not I got questions, I should say, whether or not Deebo comes into camp in shape. If he doesn't take care of his legs, if you give me Deebo coming off an offseason where he didn't take care of his legs, I don't even want him at the price tag that I want him at today.
Yeah,
You
he
know
could
what
be
I'm saying?
useless. That was 2 years ago. That's what
Yeah.
happened. And last year he had a phenomenal offseason. What's he doing now? Don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe the Niners
That's a
know.
huge piece of information as far as, do I want to extend him? But I don't think Parag is going to get anywhere near the 70 million. So then it's a matter of, do you want an unhappy asset? Do you want a guy who's not going to be training his legs in the offseason?
Yeah.
I mean, now then you could get stuck paying him a lot of money and getting very little. So this is a very tricky thing, because you got to make sure that you're either getting value for him in a trade, because the fans are going to absolutely riot if you trade the best player on the team. But they'll be with you if you get a killer trade, including that 4th pick.
Pretty much. So 49er fans, this could happen in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I don't think it absolutely won't. Larry thinks it's 50-50. I'm right there with him. I kind of hope the Niners do it just so I can witness chaos. I love chaos. It's my favorite. They says
I love chaos.
Big fan of you both. I'm in trade him camp if money's too much. I think a lot of 49ers fans are. I think it's interesting what Deebo did, I think backfired a little bit. The social media stuff, it polarized him with the fan base. Instead of having everyone saying, pay Deebo, you got 50-50, as opposed to everyone saying, pay Nick Bosa, who hasn't opened his mouth or changed his social media status.
Well, and I think we got to give the fans a little credit as well. You know, there's some pretty intelligent football fans, and they can see that it's not smart to pay a guy as a wide receiver top of the scale and then use him like a hammerhead fullback. And that's what the Niners, if they used him the way they have utilized him, that's the road they're going down. So I think there are a lot of people looking at that going, wow, could you steal a bunch of draft picks from the Jets? The Jets are desperate. And then, you know, still though, the draft, as we saw with Kinlaw, no matter how highly rated these prospects are, there's no guarantee that what if they get the 4th pick and use it on Garrett Wilson? You know, okay, is Garrett Wilson for Deebo a good trade? Probably not.